There is something happening inside you that you've never fully been able to describe, something that sits beneath your skin and pulses like a quiet whisper from another world. You've tried to hide it, questioned it, even judged yourself for feeling things so strongly, withdrawing so suddenly, or sensing things that no one else around you notices. You carry urges you don't understand, habits that feel strange even to you, emotional waves that rise out of nowhere and crash through your chest as if they belong to someone else. And for most of your life, you assumed all of this meant something was wrong with you. You thought you were unstable, too sensitive, too withdrawn, too intense, too much or never enough. But what if none of that was the truth? What if everything you've been fighting within yourself wasn't a flaw but a signal? What if the very things you've tried to suppress were actually tools, divine instruments planted inside you long before you even realized you were different? From the moment you came into this world, there was a difference in your wiring. You've always felt life more sharply, more honestly, more deeply than those around you. Others can glide through life on autopilot, but you feel every shift, every angle, every vibration. You absorb the atmosphere of a room before anyone speaks. You sense the energy of a person before you know their name. You knew you were not like the people around you early in life, and because the world didn't understand you, it labeled you. Maybe they called you distant. Maybe they said you were overly dramatic. Maybe they insisted you were too quiet, too emotional, too isolated, too intense. But here is the truth they never knew how to tell you. You were not built for the ordinary. You were never meant to fit into what society calls normal. You were designed with spiritual sensitivity, divine receptors, a kind of inner technology that only the chosen ones carry. And everything that others mistook as instability was actually the mark of someone spiritually calibrated for a different kind of journey. You are not here to be like everyone else. You are here to see what others can't, to feel what others avoid, to hear what others filter out. And as you listen to this, piece by piece, something inside you will begin to settle into understanding. You will recognize yourself. You will understand why your life unfolded the way it did, why certain experiences broke you open, why you've repeatedly been pulled in directions you didn't consciously choose. By the time this video reaches its final breath, you will understand why you've always felt different. You will finally see that everything you thought was a weakness has been shaping your destiny all along. And if you feel the pull to stay here with me until the end, don't ignore it. That sensation in your chest, that curiosity mixed with relief, that faint spark of recognition, that's your spirit saying, this is for me. If something moves within you, let it. If something awakens, allow it. If something inside whispers yes, trust it. You're not here by accident. There's a reason your path has been marked by isolation, by emotional intensity, by experiences that left you feeling misunderstood and alone. These are not punishments, they are preparations. Everything begins with the moments you were pulled inward, away from noise, away from people, away from the environment that once felt familiar. You didn't choose isolation, it chose you. And for the longest time you couldn't explain it, you simply felt it. A magnetic force inside you started dragging you away from crowds, away from friendships that drained you, away from places that no longer aligned with your spirit. People assumed you were becoming cold. They thought you were rejecting them. They whispered that you were acting strange, becoming distant, shutting down emotionally. But deep down, you knew it wasn't personal. You weren't running from them, you were being called somewhere else. Isolation always comes before elevation. It is the space where heaven begins its work. When the noise of the world fades, you start hearing the frequency of your own soul. In the quiet, intuition becomes louder. In the stillness, truth begins to rise. The solitude you enter is not a prison, it is a training ground. It is in these moments that God softens your spirit, resets your energy, detoxes your emotions, and sharpens your inner vision. This is not the kind of isolation that breaks you. This is the kind that rebuilds you. Inside your solitude, something begins to happen. It feels like a recalibration, a spiritual realignment where the old layers peel away and you start becoming aware of energies you never noticed before. Thoughts become clearer. Emotions become more honest. Your inner voice grows louder and more authoritative. You start recognizing what resonates with you and what drains you. You feel when a room is off, when a person is hiding something, when a situation carries danger. And even though you cannot always explain how you know, the knowing is undeniable. This is because the isolation you go through is not emptiness. It is the inner chamber, a sacred place reserved only for chosen ones where God speaks, not through thunder, but through subtle nudges, quiet impressions, soft but undeniable whispers. Over time, your senses become intensified. You start noticing even the smallest shifts in atmosphere. You pick up emotions that don't belong to you. You read energy before you hear words. The isolation awakens something ancient inside you, a spiritual antenna that alerts you to things others overlook completely. You begin to understand that you are not alone in your solitude. You are being prepared. And every moment you feel yourself pulled inward is a sign that heaven is setting the stage for something new in your life. If your moments of solitude have been increasing recently, it is not a coincidence. Something significant is being prepared for you. And then comes the next layer of your awakening, the intensity of your emotions. You've always felt things deeply, sometimes so deeply that it scared you. When you love with a force that feels supernatural. When you hurt, the pain cuts like it's happening at the soul level. When you sense sadness, compassion, excitement, or heaviness, it doesn't feel like a casual feeling. It feels like a wave crashing through your entire being. The world has tried to convince you that your emotions are a problem. They said you were being dramatic. They said you were too sensitive, too reactive, too emotional. They don't realize that sensitivity is not weakness. It is a divine instrument. You are tuned to a higher frequency. Your emotions are not random reactions. They are spiritual detectors. You feel deeply because you are picking up on what others suppress. You sense truth before it is spoken. You absorb hidden motives, unspoken pain, spiritual danger. And the emotional undercurrents people carry without acknowledging. Many of the emotions that overwhelm you were never yours in the first place. You were sensing the room. You were feeling the people. You were acting as a receiver for signals most people cannot even detect. And yes, it can feel heavy. It can feel like too much. Carrying emotional storms that aren't yours, feeling the pain of people who never tell the truth, holding compassion for situations you didn't cause, this becomes exhausting. But this burden is also a blessing. It means you were chosen to sense, to feel, to warn, to guide, to protect. You carry emotional storms because your spirit was built to handle depths that others cannot face. What you feel is not chaos, it is intuition, it is insight. It is divine awareness. When your emotions flare up, they aren't punishing you. They are signaling you. They are telling you that something in your environment is shifting. They are nudging you to pay attention. Every emotional surge has a message. Every moment of heaviness has meaning. Every storm inside you is trying to reveal something. You were never unstable. You were never overreacting. You were never too much. You were spiritually awake in a world that is spiritually numb. You were seeing in a place where others were blind. You were hearing what others tuned out. You were feeling what others denied. And the very traits you hid, suppressed, or apologized for are the keys to who you were always meant to become. You are stepping out of misunderstanding and into recognition. Your isolation has shaped you. Your emotional depth has refined you. Your sensitivity has awakened you. And everything inside you, every urge, every shift, every intensity has been preparing you for something greater. Your storm is not a burden. It is a signal. It is a message that your awakening is already happening. There comes a point in every chosen one's journey where you begin to notice a pattern you never meant to create. A pattern where you find yourself drawn again and again to people who cannot meet you at the level you meet them. You step into their lives not because they've earned your loyalty, not because they've proven their character, and not even because they treat you well. You step in because you see something deeper than their behavior. You see their soul. You see the wounded places they try to hide from the world. You see the version of them that even they've forgotten. And without thinking twice, you extend your energy, your encouragement, your compassion, your time, your heart. You end up helping people who could never repay you, people who don't even understand the magnitude of what you're giving, people who take your presence as something ordinary even though it is anything but. It's not that you're naive. It's not that you're desperate for connection. It's that there is something inside you, an instinct, a spiritual reflex, that pushes you to be a bridge where others have been walls. You are not built to withhold love, to turn your back on brokenness, or to ignore the silent cries of people who pretend they're fine. You carry a heart that operates like a divine instrument, reaching into places most people never touch. When others shut down, you open up. When others avoid, you approach. When others judge, you understand. It's in your nature to stand in the gap, to fill the spaces where compassion is missing. And even though it feels like a burden at times, this is one of the clearest signs of your spiritual assignment. But carrying a heart like this comes with a hidden cost. You know this cost well. You felt the emotional exhaustion that wraps around your chest after pouring into people who never poured back into you. You've known the heartbreak of giving your support to someone who disappeared the moment they no longer needed you. You've faced betrayal from people you defended, abandonment from people you comforted, silence from people you spoke life into. You've been the steady presence for people who vanished the moment you needed stability yourself. And perhaps the deepest wound of all is not the betrayal, but the feeling of being unseen, of realizing that the very gifts that help others are the ones that leave you feeling empty. But heaven has a different view of your sacrifices. You may think what you gave was unnoticed. You may think your seeds were wasted. You may think the people who hurt you got away with everything. But nothing you've ever done from a place of genuine love has been forgotten. The world overlooks you, but God does not. There are seeds you planted in silence that will become blessings you reap in public. The moments where you wipe someone's tears in private are building breakthroughs you haven't seen yet. Every time you helped someone who couldn't help you, you weren't losing. You were being shaped. Your compassion has been chiseling your spirit, strengthening your heart, sharpening your purpose. You were giving to others, yes, but heaven was using these very battles to mold you into who you're becoming. And as this compassion matures inside you, another force rises with it, the addiction to truth. This one is impossible to ignore. There is something inside you that simply cannot tolerate lies, manipulation, or shallow masks. You're not wired for fakeness. Your spirit rebels against it. When someone lies, you may not have proof, but you feel it instantly. When a person carries hidden motives, your intuition whispers the truth before your mind even catches up. When the energy in a room shifts, you sense it before anyone speaks. These are early spiritual warnings, built into you long before you understood their purpose. They come through subtle signals, a tone that sounds slightly off, an atmosphere that feels uneasy, a glance that reveals more than it hides. Others miss these cues, but you don't. You were designed to see what's tucked beneath the surface. This ability isolates you at times. It keeps you from settling for relationships that don't resonate, friendships that feel performative, environments that suffocate your spirit. It can make you feel like you don't belong anywhere because you can see through illusions that others gladly believe in. You don't fall for empty words. You don't get fooled by charm. You don't attach yourself to appearances. You look deeper, and because of that, you often see the truth before it unfolds. Sometimes this gift hurts because it reveals what you wish wasn't there. But this same gift also protects you from dangers you don't fully understand until later. It shields you from traps, from heartbreak, from spiritual harm. And while seeing the truth in others is powerful, the deepest transformation happens when you turn this lens inward. There are moments when your spirit confronts you with truths about yourself, truths that are uncomfortable, messy, painful. These moments feel like inner earthquakes, shaking loose the parts of you that need to be released. But this is where your true growth begins. Your journey requires honesty with yourself, honesty that cuts, honesty that liberates. You learn to face your shadows, your patterns, your wounds, your fears, not to shame yourself, but to free yourself. Your spirit will never allow you to stay in a lie, not even your own. It will keep nudging you, revealing what you need to acknowledge, exposing what you need to release. It refuses to let you settle for illusions or deny parts of yourself that need healing. This is why you cannot ignore the truth, why you feel restless when something doesn't align, why your soul cannot stay silent when something feels off. Everything hidden inside you, everything buried, everything avoided, your spirit brings it to the surface because you were never meant to live half awake. Your spirit won't rest until everything concealed becomes visible. It doesn't expose things to destroy you. It exposes them to transform you. There's a weight you carry that nobody sees, a weight that doesn't come from the world outside you, but from the standards you silently hold within. Nobody pushes you as hard as you push yourself. Nobody demands from you what you demand from your own soul. Even when no one is watching, even when no one expects anything from you, you feel a responsibility that has no clear origin. It's almost like you were born carrying an invisible assignment, a sense that your life means something larger than what you've lived so far. This pressure doesn't shout, it whispers. It sits behind your thoughts, guiding your choices, shaping your behaviors. And while others can coast through life casually, you always feel like there's something you should be doing, something you must become, something you cannot afford to ignore. This is the calling inside you, an inner awareness of purpose that doesn't need words to be understood. You wake up some mornings with a heaviness that has nothing to do with physical tiredness and everything to do with destiny. You can't explain it to anyone. You may not even fully understand it yourself, but it's there, always humming like a spiritual pulse. When you're stagnant, it suffocates you. When you're misaligned, it warns you. When you're delaying your growth, it becomes louder. This is why you cannot sit still in seasons where others feel comfortable. This is why a normal life never appealed to you. This is why your spirit feels restless when you're surrounded by the wrong people, the wrong environment, or the wrong path. You carry a sense of mission, even if you don't yet know its full shape. And because of this silent mission, you hold yourself to standards that no one else would ever demand from you. You forgive others easily, but you hold your own mistakes like they're written in stone. You allow others to be human, but punish yourself when you fall short. You carry emotional weight that nobody else sees, guilt that nobody else asked you to carry, expectations that nobody else placed on you. You've never needed external pressure because the pressure inside you has always been louder. And sometimes that internal pressure becomes overwhelming. You start to wonder why you can't just relax the way others do, why you can't just let things slide, why you feel responsible for things that aren't even in your control. You don't realize that this pressure is not meant to crush you. It is meant to shape you. There is divine purpose behind the weight you feel. The pressure matches the size of the calling. Your future self is calling you forward. Every time you feel that heaviness, that urgency, that sense that you cannot waste time, it is not anxiety, it is alignment. It is preparation. It is destiny nudging you toward the next version of yourself. You feel pressure because your spirit is accelerating, expanding, evolving. You are not being punished, you are being upgraded. And that tightness in your chest, that internal voice that says you can't stay here, that restless feeling pushing against your comfort zone, that is the sign that your elevation is near. The pressure intensifies right before the breakthrough. And then after all the pressure comes another pattern in your life, one you never asked for but one you've come to recognize as a part of who you are, the addiction to rising again. There's something supernatural about the way you come back from things that were meant to destroy you. You've broken in private, fallen apart in silence, collapsed under weights no one else could carry, and yet somehow every single time you've rebuilt yourself. Others see the strength, the resilience, the unshakable armor you wear. They admire it, they praise it, they think you're naturally strong. What they don't see are the nights when you whisper to yourself, "I can't do this anymore." The moments where you questioned if you had anything left. The times where you stared at the ceiling hoping for a sign, a hint, a reason to keep going. You've had moments where you were seconds away from giving up entirely. Moments where the weight felt unbearable, where the silence felt endless, where the pain felt permanent. But in those places, something always met you. Call it divine reinforcement, spiritual intervention, inner strength, or God's hand. Whatever name you give it, you know it wasn't just you. Something lifted you when you couldn't lift yourself. Something placed breath back into your lungs when your soul felt empty. Something pushed you back to your feet when part of you wanted to stay on the ground. That is why you rise. Not because you're unaffected, not because you're invincible, but because heaven refuses to let you stay broken. Every time you rise, you are promoted. Every comeback expands your spiritual capacity. Every recovery builds internal authority. Every setback becomes a classroom where your resilience grows sharper, deeper, stronger. You're not just surviving struggles, you're being shaped by them. And this is why the enemy, the adversary, the spiritual resistance surrounding your life has targeted you so fiercely. You are attacked not because you're weak, but because you do not quit. You resurrect. You come back stronger. You become wiser. You grow sharper. You evolve. Your spirit does not stay down, and that makes you dangerous to anything that tried to break you. And maybe you're tired. Maybe you're exhausted from always being the strong one, the resilient one, the one who keeps getting up. Maybe you've reached a point where you're saying, "I don't want to rise again. I don't have another comeback in me." If that's where you are, hear this clearly. The reason you feel drained right now, the reason you feel like you're at your limit, is because you are close. This is the final stretch before the breakthrough. This exhaustion is not the end. It is the tipping point. You have climbed too far, endured too much, survived too deeply for this to be where your story ends. You are standing on the edge of your next elevation, and even though you may be tired of rising, your spirit knows exactly what comes next. And as you sit with everything you've heard, let this truth settle into you. Nothing about you has ever been random. Every instinct, every struggle, every storm, every comeback has been shaping you into who you were always meant to become. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. And your next chapter is already calling your name. If this spoke to your spirit, stay close. Your awakening has only just begun.